Give them your attention, folks.
Well, first, may the peace, mercy, and blessings from the owner of all peace, mercy, and blessings be upon all of you. I guess I should really address something that I just heard, which is really great. Folks that voted for me. So I want to first start off by saying thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As you all know, my brother Al and I, we was lockstep really almost from the beginning.
Yep.
And it was a beautiful thing because as a newcomer to politics, I'm not a newcomer to fighting for our people.
All right.
And what I've often said, and I started to say more on the campaign trail, was look, bring a person like me in who's now old enough to do something about the conditions in our community and still young enough yet to be able to get counsel from all of the great people like Al Taylor, like our congressmen, like our former assemblymen, former borough presidents, all of the people who have stake in our community. I'll be able to listen, learn, and hit the ground running,
Yes.
as they say, on the good foot. So I'm really, really happy to start off by saying that and also let you know how honored I am to be elected to be the chair of public safety. I wish that young man was still here, and I'm sure that someone will get his, this message to him and get the information, but I think what our congressman said and our assemblyman echoed is important. We have to be a people that are not vigilantes, but rather that we organize ourselves in order to make sure that we support ourselves. And what does that mean? That means that when we have issues of safety in our community, primarily, we are talking to each other so that we can have outlets. Because guess what? When he mentioned that it was a man that did this, when the congressman mentioned that it was a man who cut off the ears of the woman, I couldn't help but think of how many of us men don't talk out our problems.
Well,
We keep everything bottled up inside, right? And really, we are almost like ticking time bombs. And oftentimes, and I want you to understand this too, that's not necessarily all of our fault. We can't put the onus on anyone other than ourselves because we're in control of ourselves. But we also have to understand the conditions that produce a desired result. Some of those conditions, if you really, really do the knowledge, as they said back in the days, you understand that when they look at the educational system, they're already figuring out how many jails to build by the time our children are in the 3rd and 4th grade. So that's concerning to me as a father and as a husband. My wife and I share 10 children together. That's concerning to me as a father and as a husband because my wife and I, of those 10 children, there are 7 girls that we share together. And so it's very important that we begin to have those kinds of conversations. One of the things that we have to truly understand is that they bet on our disunification. They bet on the fact that we are not organizing ourselves. And how do we know this? We know this because when we were tracking the metrics and the votes, one of the things that was completely apparent as they started to explain this to me, because I kept saying, well, why are we not going to this church? And how come we not going over to these projects? And I'm looking at the numbers of people. And my team said, no, we're looking at the triple prime voters.
wow.
And I said, well, break it down. Give me the information so that I can understand. And my chief of staff at the time, who's now
The other way.
flip it around. I already knew he was going to be my chief of staff. I want to introduce to some and reintroduce to everyone the grandson of Judge Bruce Wright, the man who they hated so much that they called him Cut Him Loose Bruce as a moniker because he was looking at the color of our skin and giving us a chance. This is also the son of the great assemblyman, Keith Wright, who is our district leader. And so we hit the ground running. But when he was describing to me why we were looking at triple prime, he said, you know, we can take the Riverton as an example, and we can put the Riverton inside of Lincoln projects 5 times over. But if we calculate how many times and how often the people at Lincoln projects vote, the ones who do vote, who are triple prime voters, maybe 15 to 20%. At most, at the top. But the people who vote in the Riverton, 85 to 95%. So what that told me was this: if we reverse engineer a strategy, if we were organizing King Towers, if we were organizing Lincoln projects, if we were organizing around our issues, we will never be denied all that is due us. And so we are being played in a way because they're betting on us not to. Well, it's like people that are jaded.
Yeah.
You get jaded through the process. You know, you start saying things like, you know what, somebody else will take care of it.
Yeah.
You know what, I'm not gonna vote because they're gonna steal our vote. You know what I've been telling folks? And this is involving public safety as well. Non-participation is participation. We have to participate. We can't have a wait and see policy. We have to have an active participation, and that comes directly from our office in Central Harlem. As the councilman for our district and as the person who is now the chair over public safety, you'll get an opportunity through me, and maybe even with me, to do some ride-alongs. Almost like the movie, right?
First thing I thought.
We want to be able to see, because see, it's one thing, and I don't necessarily like, forgive me for saying it this way, political speech, because oftentimes it sounds confusing to the rest of us who are not political strategists and scientists. They bet on that though. And so a lot of times I like to try to translate the big words, like when I've gone around on the public circuit and I start telling folks, you know, deoxyribonucleic acid, and people say, what? I say, yeah, that's the thing, the DNA that they talk about, which freed us through the Central Park Jogger case. They had the DNA in our case way back when, but they created a public safety issue in quotes and made people look at the black and brown community and say they are the criminals. And so even now, when our sister Adamaba is helping the immigrants, specifically the immigrants in our community, we look around and we see what's going on. But every time I turn the TV on, they're showing people immigrating to our community that don't look like me. And I'm wondering, when I go to 116th Street, why they're not showing us, right? So many of us are coming up to us saying to me in particular, I remember this happened on the campaign trail. I'm walking around, 3 guys came up to me. They greeted me, I greeted them, Salaam alaikum, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And then they started speaking in French. And I said, I don't speak that much. And they said, Senegalese? What that means is that, just like somebody said, I look like I'm from Senegal. My mother was born in Birmingham, Alabama. My father has lineage that reaches back to Barbados. But what that tells me is that the transatlantic slave trade was alive and sick. Because if I can still have the representation where people can look at me, I'll never forget when I first went to Africa, and I know I'm veering off a little bit, but I just want you to know a little bit about me. When I first went to Africa, the first thing I realized was that I was looking around and I said, man, that looked like my uncle. That looked like my cousin.
Yes.
Man, that looked like Al Taylor.
That's it, baby.
And then they came up to me, folks was coming up to me and they were saying in Nangadef. And I said, Mangi fish, right? And they said some more. I said, no, that's all I know. Oh, they said, ça va, I do know a little bit of French, ça va bien. And they would go on and I would say, no, that's all I know. But that's where the challenge lies. That's why we need resources like Sister Adama Ba doing what she's doing and more of that. She's really, she's a bright light of resource in our community. And we need to make sure that we support these types of efforts. It's all about public safety. It's all about quality of life. Why did I first of all go into running? I went into running because I knew that although I was not politically savvy, that my lived experience told a different story. It said that I had the opportunity, because I was run over by the spike wheels of justice, because I was plunged into the darkness of the belly of the beast, that I can see in the dark. That the types of conversations that I'm gonna have with my brother and have been having with my brother is to be able to say, oh wow, you mean, so this is what this means? Like when our congressman was echoing, I said, man, he sounds like our dear brother Malcolm X. He said poppy seeds aren't in our backyard. Cocoa plants aren't in our backyard. Yes. And to go even a step further, I was listening to a person who was arrested for drugs, and he said, you mean to tell me you saw the crack in my pocket after it already came across the border and did it, all of this stuff, and all of a sudden you see it in my pocket. But then also we know, what does that mean? That means that even in present day, yes, the war on drugs was always a war on our people. Right now, we're talking about how do we fix and how do we repair. We wanted the Betty Ford Clinics of America to be open in the 70s and the 80s for our people. But now what they've done in our community, if they've said their non-participation means that they don't mind that we dump and oversaturate their community with all of the vices that will pull the community down. And as we exit, unwittingly, those buildings that they were waiting for us to leave in the first place. $2,000 back in the days was a lot of money. You would only find those prices further downtown. $2,000 for an apartment? Man, I'm paying like $500.
Yep.
Now people are paying $2,500 for just a studio apartment, if they could even find that.
Yes.
I got 10 babies. Well, I still call them babies, some of the adulting ones. Probably say, Dad, come on, I'm 21, I'm 22. The eldest is 27. But at least I have the 15-year-old and down still in my home. So just a background about me. Maybe we should open up and see if anybody has any questions or...
We'll let them kick it to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any questions? Thank you very much. You've been a great audience.
Miss Jordan have questions?
Ty Jones. Hey, thank you both. Fantastic. What kind of pressure can you put on those folks who are sort of at the top that, like the Congressman said, there are ports of entry, right? Does that mean it's a federal government thing? What kind of pressure can be done in a way to make sure that that sort of spigot is turned off so we can deal with the issues within our community and what you guys are doing and fine woman in the back as well. What do you think about that? Pressure?
I would say it is a federal issue, but the thing about it is this, which I think really speaks to your question, is what can we do?
Right.
The representation in government is on all levels. So what we can do as a people who are concerned is have more of these conversations, organize ourselves even more, talk about and strategize, but I don't want us just to stay there. I want us to do what I always told young people to do whenever I talk to the youngest of us. I need us to project ourselves into our future. I need to, for those who are a little bit older, at least project yourselves 50 years out from now. For the youngest of us, project yourselves out 100 years to strategize on what you want your 50-year plus self, 100-year plus self to be able to experience and be the recipient of. And so when I think about those ports of entry, when we first were found innocent, and I'm gonna use this as an example. When we were found innocent of raping a Central Park jogger in 2002. It took us 12 years of us fighting, of us marching, of us organizing for them to give us some semblance of justice. What we were told by the organizers was that you have to keep doing the work. Because if you show up just by the 5 of you, they're gonna say they ain't serious. If you show up with just the 5 of you and your parents and your loved ones, they're gonna say they not serious. But let them look out the window and see 5,000 people saying that we want justice and we want equity and fairness. Let them look out the window and see 100,000 people or more echoing the same voice. Because guess what? Our quality of life isn't unique. We all want the good things that so-called gentrification has provided for our community. We just don't want to be pushed out.
Yes.
So that means that on the other spectrum or the other side of it, we want to make sure that those places that have those types of affordability remain affordable and protected. And on the spectrum that you're talking about, we want to make sure that there's more representation. It's weird. I'm thinking about, you got to forgive me, I'm thinking about Oliver North.
Wow. That's right. The CIA.
So you got to forgive me because I was going to say more people on, but
I get it.
Oliver North was only one who was left out to take it all. But how many others were allowing for things like this to happen, right? And the worst part about it is that we know that because oftentimes we're put in a straitjacket. Even in government, folks might say, man, these guys are making some money. Really, trust me, we really aren't making that much money. I might need some affordable housing.
I was gonna ask you for a little something. Help a brother out.
Listen, that's just the truth of the matter. But we need more concerned people doing the right thing on all levels. And that concern has to be coupled with, and I know that there's a separation of church and state, but I need to remind people that whatever we do is providing equity, positive or negative, in our next life. We can never forget that. Even if you believe that all you're gonna do is live and die, trust me, there's a greater belief that really should speak to us that says we're gonna be judged for everything that we do. And we wanna be able to be standing for before the Creator, saying that, man, well, I think I'm okay. Oh, brother Al, you good? You good? Oh, man, we okay. We here together. Not,
I made it.
oh my goodness. You mean even my very fingertips was recreated? We know that we might be the people that say, send me back if that's the case. We don't want to be those kinds of people. We want to at least also, when I talk about projecting yourself into the future, 50 to 100 years from now, project yourself into your next life as well. And by your next life, I'm talking about being understanding enough to know that we are planting seeds, just like the people who planted olive seeds. They planted those seeds, and guess what? They would never be the recipients of even the shade from those trees, much less the oil. Their children's children might, and their children's children's children definitely probably will be the recipients, but that's how far into the future they were planning. And so we got to plan at least just like that.
Thank you.
So listen, let me think. Let's make some noise for Brother Yusef. I'm sorry. No. Our council member. Right?
We got Clean Slate coming up.
You know what that is, right? Yeah. All right, don't
So
act like it.
we're going to have a nice Harlem event. It's going to be at FCBC, First Corinthians Baptist Church on 116. It's going to be on the 24th at
That's
6?
Wednesday.
Is it 6? 6 to 8 p.m. 6 to 8 p.m. I got a little padding room before that. That's why I was looking at my thing like, ooh. It's 6 to 8 p.m. But come through. We're going to be talking about clean slate, what it means, how people who have been impacted by the criminal justice system, who have been doing right by themselves, can get their rights back. And guess what? We need you. We need you to participate because those votes, you got to remember, we can always argue whether we were ever part of the franchise. But when you become disenfranchised and you can't vote, they're betting on us not voting. And guess what? There's a whole lot of us that can vote again.
Yes.
And then there's a whole lot more of us that will, because Governor Kathy Hochul has signed the Clean Slate Act,
Yes.
we will be able to start, as a people who have been denied,
Yes.
getting jobs again, getting houses again, participating again in our lives. So on the 24th of this month, 6 o'clock, FCBC, I want to see y'all there.
Thank you all again. Hey, remember, if your friends ask you where you were at this morning, tell them you were at Common Good. And they treated you real good. And you all just come on back one more time. God bless you and thank you so much. Meet somebody you didn't know when you came in.